Hello and welcome to the first episode of the League of Next Gentlemen. We are the League of Next Gentlemen. I'm Tim Clark. You may remember me from such videos as moaning about Skyrim and moaning about SimCity. I'm joined by Dan Dawkins.
Hello there.
Dan does GTA 5 o'clock for us and a lot of MGS coverage. But the setup for this new show is each week, each Tuesday afternoon, we're going to be talking Next Gen. We've been corralled into doing it, I guess, because we're probably the two people here who are most excited about Next Gen, is it fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely.
Both been writing about games for over 10 years now, so we've seen a few consoles come and go. We'll be bringing a mix of kind of breaking news and analysis, but also the latest sort of HD video footage of games in development and kind of doing our best to analyse that footage in our kind of a slightly pro-am sort of way. So we're going to kick off the show with some breaking news about the next Xbox. Then we're going to move on to talking about the big Battlefield 4 reveal from GDC. A bit of talk about Thief 4 with our guest from PlayStation Access, Nathan Ditum, who's going to be along in a little bit. And then we're going to wrap up with some Unreal Engine chat. So if that sounds good, point to there to subscribe. It's probably going to be there. But Dan, let's kick off with the next Xbox. The big story of the day is...
Well, the big story of the day is that the Xbox is tipped to be unveiled on May the 21st.
And is that the same sort of time frame that I think Rob Crossley on CBG has been predicting for a while?
Yeah, I think it's slipped slightly back. I think we were all expecting a late April reveal, but the latest information from analyst Paul Thurrott, who's quite a big name in the Microsoft community, he's saying that it's on May 21st now, which is slightly further back than we expected.
Did he explain why he thought that the reveal had been pushed back, or why it is happening? I guess a lot of people kind of expected almost off the back of PS4 for them to go within a couple of weeks, but...
Well, I don't know. I don't know if there's a particular reason he's pushed it back, but it certainly seems that in a way it doesn't matter now, because now that Sony are out of the blocks with PS4,
you might as well take your time with your response.
Yeah, and it's all sort of pre-E3. The window's between now and E3 really, so it's up to them to choose when they do it.
So what were the other key things that he was suggesting were kind of going to feature? I saw there was some talk that there'd been a rumour floating around that there were going to be two versions of the next Xbox. One that was cheap and purely aimed at kind of TV users and people who wanted home entertainment stuff, but that seems to have gone away now, he was suggesting.
Well, this sort of ties in with what I was hearing when I was in my former life as an editor of Xbox World, where we'd heard that the next Xbox is largely skewed towards entertainment, as I think that it will be when it's released, but apparently they were investigating a version of it called, the code name was Yumo, another great name to go with Durango, and that was like the ENTS-only version of what will eventually become the Xbox, but apparently, according to Thurrott, they've binned it.
Because Yumo sounds like Durango's more on smaller brother.
Yeah, and it's ridiculous and confusing, so they've just binned that off and said it's purely going to be Xbox. But on an interesting point, they're saying the machine won't be Xbox 720 or Durango. He's saying it will just be called Xbox.
I quite like that. This I should point out on the screen is not a secret image of the new Xbox. We've just neglected to bother mentioning. This was something that was knocked up during your time as Xbox.
Well, knocked up at great length with
no
detailing, with detailing
in Microsoft Paint.
Yeah, but I mean, again, this image is obviously probably not how the final Xbox will look, but was based on people who might know how the next Xbox looks, relating to us how it could look. I can't really say much more than that, short of someone taking me out with a sniper rifle. But
well, talking about that kind of stuff, there was no taking out with rifles, but there was a bit of a grumpiness over the weekend when Adam Orth, I think creative director at Microsoft Studios, got in a kind of good-natured spat with Manveer Hai, who's one of the, I think, senior designers at BioWare, who's worked on Mass Effect. The two are obviously friends, I should say that, and I think Manveer made that point at some length afterwards, that it was a friendly chat and not meant to be taken as kind of the corporate line from either side of the two companies, but Orth seemed to be taking a position, or seemed to take up a position on Twitter where he was suggesting that always on wasn't such a bad feature, and that was kind of just the way technological devices were going to go. And he made a series of kind of strange analogies that if your electricity went out, it wouldn't mean you had to sort of dispense with your vacuum cleaner, which...
He said, look, it was very strange. He could put the tweet out about saying always on, it's all being blown out of proportion, and he used the hashtag deal with it, which was a little bit harsh. I
always like the idea with hashtags that there's anyone out there going, I wonder what's happening on the deal with it hashtag today.
It's today, it's always on. And so he went on and he made this ridiculous sort of reference about, you wouldn't buy a Hoover, or something about electricity and Hoovers that confused me, and something about, hey, I'm not buying a mobile phone because I've got patchy reception.
Then there was a bit of a discussion about whether if you lived in the countryside you might have bad broadband and it all got a bit
Well, yeah, and he listed places he definitely wouldn't live.
Yeah.
So I thought that was regionalist. That was harsh.
But he's gone quiet since, presumably. He's been
Yeah,
taken off to the room with no windows and given a spanking.
Well, Microsoft have officially apologised for his behaviour. So I mean, that in itself seems quite telling. They obviously didn't say, "Hey, we're sorry." He revealed it's always on. But
I mean, predictably, NeoGAF and Reddit got their knickers in quite a bunch about it, as they're liable to over the always on sort of stuff, and probably rightly, I should say. But since then, the reason we mention that now is Thurrott seems to be confirming, as a number of sites have now, that is going to be a feature, seemingly, of the next Xbox. Do you think it will be?
Yeah, increasingly sources seem to be saying it's always on, it's always on. This rumour keeps perpetuating to the point where I don't think it's just a rumour. And, I think if you look at the way the world is, there are a lot of things that are always on, like, for example, Spotify, people accept. Now, if they imply always on at the extent of if it switches off for a second you can't play games, that's bad news.
Yeah, but you wouldn't want to, because you owned a Spotify subscription, you wouldn't want it to ban you from not letting you play your CDs. I mean, that's where the disconnect comes in, isn't it?
Yeah.
Once you've paid for something, you expect to be able to use it kind of as and when suits you, not according to whether your broadband providers.
Well, otherwise you just have to deal with it, Tim.
Hashtag deal with it. All right. Well, let us know what you think of Always On. I suspect I know what you think of Always On in the comments below the video. We'll go on to some videos. So there was a lot of talk about next gen and PS4 in particular at this year's Games Developers Conference in San Francisco recently. Probably the biggest single game reveal, which had been well trailed in advance, was EA and DICE's Battlefield 4 done. They went with the 17-minute long demo of the new Frostbite, which is their engine, Frostbite 3 tech. Were you surprised by how long that is? Is that increasingly going to be the future, showing more and more earlier and earlier?
Well, I hope not, because it's quite a long time. And if your footage is anything less than sensational, that's quite a grind. I mean, not to say that, hey, these amazing graphics and lots of gameplay is a bad thing, but maybe at 17 minutes it's a little bit OTT. What do you think?
Yeah, I thought it's tricky with when it's kind of a warm and FPS as well, when people are so familiar with kind of the tropes of it, to really be able to pick out the things that are new and special. And I think one of the things as well with Battlefield as an example is that, because for the last game they spent so much time demoing it on crazy high-end PCs that it was going to be tough to make what would feel like a generational leap. But nonetheless, I think in that footage there was plenty of stuff that did show a real step on. And I think what was also interesting about it is this, from the sounds of it now, EA's being a lot more kind of open in terms of how it shares tech between the teams. So it's likely this engine is going to be the one that powers the next Dragon Age, the next Mass Effect, and probably a number of other games around that company's kind of library. So the things that stood out for me in the footage was those kind of really expansive outdoor areas.
Yeah.
The last Battlefield still, for the most part, except for the stuff in tanks and stuff, felt like you were being kind of pushed down the same sort of corridors and stuff. I thought anyway they were just particularly pretty corridors.
Quite literally a corridor shooter.
In the actual sense. No, there were still areas where you would be kind of funneled into those sorts of bits to create those kind of those trademark set PC Hollywood bits. But there seemed to be more freedom out there. There seemed to be more kind of undulation, that's a technical word, to the geometry being used outside. Faces look better as well. You'll see, I think, for as long as this show runs, we're going to come back time and time again to kind of the detail that people are packing into faces.
Well, exactly, the war for next-gen faces begins here.
Yeah. If you stick around for episode 2 next week, we're going to do a special on old man faces and their dominance of next-gen. Because I guess it's like a wrinkle tech, isn't it? They want to be able to show off that fine detail. But skin in particular, you can see in some of the grunts' faces in Battlefield, the kind of translucencies they're using and the way they can sort of reflect the sheen of sweat.
Well, yeah, this is what some of the detail I've got. There's actually a reflection map layer applied in the new Battlefield engine that reflects sweat, and you see it during the underwater sequence.
Do you think that's the sort of thing you can actually even notice when bullets are whizzing past your noggin?
It wasn't the thing I thought. Is that a reflection layer for the sweat right there?
It's one of those things you wonder with FIFA, isn't it? When they always go like, oh, we've modelled Ronaldo's face down to the last kind of pore and last kind of acne scar, and then you go, well, I'm playing on the wide view. He's only half a centimetre tall.
You always notice the things that kind of disconnect you from reality, I guess. So if the guy turned around and his teeth were jarring in and out, you'd be like, whoa, next gen loose and shattered, So it's just the better it is, the less you notice it almost, you know.
I spoke to David Rutter, one of the senior guys on FIFA, about a year ago, and said and asked him what was the biggest request they get for next gen graphics wise, and he said it was the crowd, and it's been the crowd for forever. Even though again you hardly ever see the crowd, but they are still stupid cardboard three frames of animation men, aren't they, at the moment?
Well, that's it. You go from the brilliant commentary that feels dynamic and really in tune and is amazing, and then suddenly like 3 animated wooden men are wobbling up and down. So you really do want it to feel like nothing shatters the illusion, don't you?
One of the other things, going back to Battlefield, you could see there was some lovely kind of almost like ambient detail. I don't know if that's an actual expression, but I've made it up now. We'll use that again. But the grass, the way the grass and the kind of the foliage like swayed and snapped back after you walked through it, you saw plenty of that in Crysis 3 as well. I played Crysis 3 on quite a fancy computer, and I think I said to you before in the office that the kind of the next gen is out there now. If you find the right game and the right rig to run it on, you can see a lot of the stuff with both. Well, certainly PS4 being a PC at heart, and we can be pretty much certain that the next Xbox will be too. That stuff is out there now. But another little detail I like was the little flocks of birds that flew around in the latter part of the Battlefield thing. It reminded me of how much it's almost like a sleight of hand and stage direction. Throwing into a big environment small animals can have an effect in terms of bringing it to life. Like, do you remember in Red Dead, with the first time you sort of saw like the bunnies scampering across the track, or you'd notice
it's stuff you're not trained to expect, so when you see it you suddenly go, oh, that's something I've not seen before. You know, it's that level of ambient extra detailing that, you know, that will be a key feature of next gen, is the sort of volume of particles and extra swish you get. It's interesting you say about grass and foliage, because that's a key feature of the engine we'll be looking at later on, the Unreal Engine 4. And in fact, we can hopefully see some footage of one of the first Unreal Engine 4 games running on PlayStation 4.
I think it was...
It's got dinosaurs, Tim.
I do like a dinosaur. Well, dinosaur was the T-Rex, wasn't it? It was used to demo PS1 back in the day. There's always a tech demo.
It's the official measurement on the dinosaur scale.
So let's wrap up Battlefield. I think one more interesting part I wanted to make was it was running on a Radeon HD 7990, which is better, I assume, than the 7889.
Yes, I will say.
But that graphics card costs 700 quid.
Yeah, alone, so just for the graphics card.
Just for the graphics card, yeah.
Right.
You've got to buy your own shell and your fans and your monitor to obviously display it. Now that kind of points to a vision of the future where, you know, there'd be outcry, wouldn't there, if the next gen consoles cost north of 700 quid. I think the chap we spoke about earlier was predicting that the next Xbox would come in at about...
Yeah, he was predicting like a 500. He said it would be expensive, and he predicted a $500 price. Now that alone is cheaper than $700, and that's without your bits and your extras. Now he also said that the next Xbox might have like a cheaper version, which would be subsidised, like a subscription model, which again is something we've been talking about and has been rumoured for
because
quite a
you'll
number
sign
of
up
months.
for a year of live or
yeah,
whatever.
similar to you do with your mobile phone, where you don't pay £500 for your iPhone up front, you pay a few £100 and you commit to a contract for a certain length. And I think that's one way to offset the cost of the next gen, and more than that, to tie you into what the next gen's likely to be about, which is about services, entertainment, apps, you know, that kind of thing.
What I think is interesting is in terms of raw power then, that if you really are someone who needs to have absolutely every setting jammed up to kind of ultra, then even within 6 months perhaps of these consoles coming out, or perhaps even before they're out, you're going to be able to see PC power users able to kind of surpass the kind of performance.
Yeah, that's an interesting point we'll make later about Unreal Engine, because there was an Unreal Engine demo shown on PC and PS4 that we'll look at later, but the PC version's being cited already as like way ahead by some people. But in fact, an interesting point to make is that it's not just about the raw tech, it's about the development of the tools that use it, and they're saying that PC tools are years in advance of where PS4 tools are. In fact, PS4 tools are, you know, barely even begun. It's a console that doesn't exist yet. So, you know, they're saying that, you know, what we're seeing of the Unreal Engine could look considerably better further down the line. But yeah, we'll touch on that later on.
So next up we're going to talk about a game which is only on next gen. It's unlike a lot of other games like Assassin's Creed, which is appearing on both PS3 and PS4. This is a game only designed for PS4, high-end PCs, and I guess the next Xbox as well. And that's the latest entry in the Thief series, Nathan, which you went over to see in Montreal.
Yeah, that's right. We went to see it at IDOS Montreal a couple of weeks back. It was extraordinarily cold. It's interesting you talk about high-end PCs. That was one of the things that they mentioned specifically. I think that they're aware that ongoing kind of problems with PC gamers who are worried that consoles are kind of bringing down specs of games like this one, which should be, should look fantastic. And so they're kind of they want everyone to know that they're pushing the specs as much as possible, that it's going to be very much like a high-end, a demonstration of what high-end PCs can do and what PS4 and Xbox next.
So of what you saw, I mean, this is a stealth game. Is it a reboot for the franchise?
It's kind of in the middle. So there's the returning character. There is, I think, similar to when Deus Ex came back. There's a lot of people who,
which is the same studio.
It was, and it was originally the same kind of creative group of people around, kind of Looking Glass on Ion Storm, and they're very immersive first-person games that are very influential, and I think that they treated Deus Ex with probably the right balance of, here are the things you loved about this old game, but also we've made it so that it's not, got 7 pixels on the screen at the same time. And with Thief, that's something which they're looking to do as well. So they talk about respect, but balanced with kind of the expectations of a current gamer. So there's Garrett, which is the old Thief. He is back, but he is returning to the city, which is the same city, for reasons that they've not explained to us as yet. But so it's kind of part way. I mean, I think there are story links back to the Hammerites and the Pagans and the things that used to be, the factions that used to be in the city, but time has moved on indeterminately for reasons unknown. In
terms of the actual gameplay, did you see much stuff that felt like couldn't have been done in the last generation? What was the most next generational thing you saw?
Well, I guess that's the most exciting thing for people who are going to be if anyone looking forward to buying a PS4 or a next Xbox, or people who currently have, or are saving up lots of money to buy a big PC, is that it's running on Unreal, but it's heavily modified, and the game is always very interactive. So there's always been lots of shadows, lots of light, fog is a huge thing, and also sound. They were talking about the audio work they've done on the game. And the level of interactivity that you get with the environments, the kind of casting dynamic shadows and that kind of thing, actually affect gameplay in Thief, because Thief is a game where if you're hidden in the shadows, you can't be seen. If you're walking on wood, you're more likely to be heard than if you're walking on carpet. So this kind of level, they talk about it as a kind of a world that you can almost like touch and smell. It's like a really tactile world, and he has his hands out, and I don't know if you've seen the screenshots, he's got like his hands, and to give that kind of sense that he like touches everything in the world, a bit like Nathan Drake did in Uncharted 3, but kind of.
I feel like more hands is going to be a key tenet of first-person games in next gen.
I absolutely hope so. Yeah. And
do you remember that trailer for that game? I think it was called Killing Day. Do you remember that one, Dan? When it was.
Oh man, alive! Yeah, back
it was a Ubisoft
PS3 reveal.
Yeah, that never came out, and that was all hands. It was really grabby. But then
this gen couldn't handle hands. They skipped to gen, and now hands are back on the agenda.
They went too early with it.
Maybe the gen after that would just be us doing this.
So with a stealth game, I mean, I kind of don't know if I want to be sat there going, is that going to creak too loud? Is that going to crunch a bit? In terms of frustration, did it feel like they had new, clever ideas for how to make stealth fun?
Well, I think the stealth in Thief is probably one of the few games that I've not really hated it, because you're so sure of like if you're in the shadow, you're safe unless you come out and shoot somebody. You know what I mean? Obviously, getting the AI balance right. If you're running between cover and they see you, you don't want that guy then to just go, oh, it's probably nothing. It's probably not a heavily armed man running between shadows. It's probably just a rat. And the series was always really good at doing that and making you feel like, like a fairness in stealth is always my big thing. Like, as long as it's treating you fairly and you feel like I know why I've messed up.
Doesn't he stick everything he steals into his pockets, and he steals like an awful lot?
Yeah, John.
Wouldn't he be rattling like Jimmy Savile's spinning corpse?
Well, everyone laughed in the room. We were on the trip with John Hicks from our colleague on Official Xbox Magazine, and that was his question: is there a limit to the amount of things that he can put in his enormous pockets? And they laughed in his face.
Do you have to put like a packet full of foam shavings in every third item just to reduce jangle?
We hope so. That's what the realism of next gen demands, isn't it? So.
He's got loads of those polystyrene packing things you can get with Amazon
really
stuff.
Easy to track. Guards are like, well, there's just polystyrene shavings everywhere. I just want to know, as an idiot, like you see next gen footage running on trailers, and it's all very slick, and you struggle to believe it. Like when you see it sort of natively running off a PC and being manipulated in real time, how impressive was seeing Thief running, and being stopped and started just like you would a normal game?
It was really, really impressive. I mean, that's what measure can I give? I don't know.
He sighed.
I think. Well, the thing is that you always get that. I think console generations, as console gamers, traditionally, I think all three of us, we've always got that leap, and you kind of go, oh, that's not real, is it? That's not real. And then, like, as the consoles emerge, you see what is real and what isn't. But now I think the PC gaming, because we've been waiting for a new generation for so long.
They've ruined it. Go on, say they've ruined it.
No, but they've been coming to the fore, and so you kind of realise that it's a gradual curve rather than these leaps. So when I saw it, I was kind of like,
That's what we've got to look forward to. A gradual
PS3,
curve.
is it? Was my first thought. Yeah, I'm not going to be playing that on the machine I've got at home currently. And then what was really, really impressive was, and it's normally the part where everyone decides to have a quick, donut and a cup of coffee, was when they got out the tech demo, and it was kind of Inception influenced. They had a burning house, well, Inception stroke Island of whatever it's called. Anyway, with Leo DiCaprio.
Dr. Moreau?
No, the one where he's going mad on like the
Shutter
Island.
Yeah, Shutter Island. And it's like, so it's a burning house like his dream, but that was to show their kind of I think he called it like a pixel disco. It wasn't the best description, but
I like that.
But it was about, because they wanted the world to be so dark, because it's a world of shadows, so they've made the smoke and the fog a kind of luminescent, so you can see silhouettes in it, so it's darkness upon
Was the building sort of collapsing in real time? I think real-time destruction's a big,
it looked,
along with hands, a big thing.
Well, and floating kind of cinders looked incredible, and the smoke looked amazing. And he was talking about how the light and the shadows play with the fog, like in real time. And like when you see it in the game, you just go, that's fine. When you see it in the tech demo, we were going, ooh, oh, that's amazing. And then you realise that in a game like Thief, it actually has gameplay applications, like it's going to affect the way I'm moving through the world. I was like, okay.
Because you can hide in shadows that are being thrown and moving.
Yeah, the most amazing part for me, completely unrealistic, was you drop down on a you have like a grapple, and there was a guard walking into a doorway holding a lantern, and he was throwing like a really wide, like a bleak shadow, and I was hiding from this man in his own shadow, which is ridiculous.
That's the point, you hit quick save as soon as you land in that shadow, and then you realise you don't know what to do.
Yeah. So yeah, no, the way it affected gameplay to me was the biggest next gen leap.
Right.
Okay, and we can see more of this over on PlayStation Access channel.
Yes, we can. Yes.
Good, thank you. So the other thing on show at GDC was a lot of different engines which will be used to power next-gen graphics. One of the key ones was the Unreal Engine being hawked around by Epic. Unreal is one of the absolute cornerstones of the last generation and looks set to be so again. What have you made of the latest tech they've been showing off, Dan?
Well, I mean, the video is an adaptation of what we saw last year with that kind of Skyrim refugee guy, the black-hatted man escaping into volcano world, and it's all, I guess, in terms
That's
of
what they said to the concept guy. Bring me a black-hatted man, and he's also a robot.
Yes, black-hatted enough. He could be. I don't know for a fact. But again, I don't think intrinsically that visuals are that exciting, but it's all about showing off particle effects, it's about showing lighting, it's about showing shadowing, everything we've been talking about. It's a catalogue essentially, isn't it, of how many effects they can cram in. And if you're like a sort of trained spotter of tech effects, you can go through the tech demo and go, spot, that's a box A depth of field illumination.
Can you do that?
Well, not me, Tim, but someone could do that.
Is this like when we watched the MGS reveal and we had to work out what Agadoo lighting was or whatever it was called?
Yeah, exactly. It's not for me. But
what was the actual name?
I can't remember. But I mean, essentially what hopefully we're seeing is all these catalogue of nice next-gen effects. What was interesting was that some people, in fact, including CVG, we took the PC version of the UE4 trailer, put it up against the PC version. Now, people who were smarter than me have analysed it, and the conclusion seems to be, hey, the PC version's a lot better. But I think that's a lot better if you truly understand catalogue box ticking stuff. Truth is, with my naive eyes, I could barely tell the difference.
Daniel, I'm in my 30s. If I switch the settings from medium to high, I can barely tell the difference unless I press my face right against it.
Well, this is it.
I don't know if I can capture it
that's
anymore.
Normal humans.
I'm too late for the next generation.
Yeah, we won't see it. And like, the big difference essentially, and this is the thing that the tech people have picked up on, is that the PS4 version doesn't have, and this isn't a phrase I know off by heart, sparse voxel octree global illumination. Which is,
I'd like you to spell that like those kids in America for the spelling bee.
I won't. And that's essentially like a really smart new lighting technology that uses essentially 3D pixels called voxels. So it's pixels with volume. Didn't think I knew that, did you?
I think they've been around for ages, maybe they just haven't been used. We're going to properly shame ourselves in this bit.
Well, I won't show myself any further, but essentially the key difference is with the PS4 version, it hasn't got this tech.
Right.
But a guy from Epic came out and he said, essentially, people have pulled this apart. It's slightly unfair because, like he said himself, the PS4 development tools are like nascent. They're being developed as we go. Some effects are missing, partly because we haven't got to that stage in development yet. Some of the stuff's missing purely because we've rejigged the video from what we showed last year, and some of it's purely an artistic decision. So where you expect to see certain effects, they're not there just because we've recut the video. Epic themselves describes PS4 as like a perfect PC gaming rig. And again, essentially because it's got mountains of high-speed RAM.
Well, I was chatting to a colleague who just come back from a GDC earlier today, and he was saying that on the ground the developers have been incredibly positive about it as a platform. So no doubt we'll hear more about that in the kind of the weeks and shows to come. We'll be back every Tuesday from here on then. Please be sure to like and subscribe, and if you leave a question in the comments under this video, we'll try and have like a mailbag section from next week onwards and answer any pressing questions you've got for us. We're the League of Next Gentlemen. We are the anchormen of the future, or something certainly that rhymes with anchormen, and we'll see you next week.